We'll call the Apopka City Council meeting of September 15th to order. Commissioner Bankson, will you give us the prayer, pledge, and fact of the day?
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you again that you're with us in all the challenges that we face, and we do ask for wisdom and grace, that we would have a team spirit as we approach all of these things. Thank you, Father, for the differences of all of our thoughts coming together in that which is best for all. So guide us as we continue the business of the city this evening. We ask it in Jesus' name.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. On September 14th, 1814, Francis Scott Key wrote a poem, The Star-Spangled Banner. The poem, originally titled The Defense of Fort McHenry, was written after Key witnessed the Maryland fort being bombarded by the British during the War of 1812. Key was at the fort to negotiate the release of his friend, but they were not allowed to leave till the next morning. Key was inspired by the sight of a lone U.S. flag still flying over Fort McHenry at daybreak, as reflected in the now famous words of the Star-Spangled Banner. And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. The poem was printed in newspapers and eventually set to the music, and people began referring to the song as the Star-Spangled Banner. And in 1916, President Woodrow Wilson announced that it should be played at all official events. It was adopted as the national anthem on March 3rd, 1931.
Okay. Edward, any changes to the agenda?
The only change, Mayor, and it's just a small thing, for the public hearing item under Resolution 2121, it doesn't have the actual person, the presenting staff member. That will be Pam Richmond, just for the record.
I'm sorry, which one was that?
Public hearing, the only item under public hearing
okay.
is, that will, the staff presenting that item will be Pam Richmond.
Okay.
And also, I just want to note, while it's listed in the agenda as Resolution 212144, the actual resolution number is 2021-44. The resolution actually does have the correct number.
20. All right. 2144.
Okay, all right. Susan, any public comment?
Yes, we do. Rod Olson.
Rod Olson, 3156 Rolling Hills Lane in Apopka. Mayor, Commissioners, just wanted to have some marketing statements made by the RSR or HOA Board regarding retention ponds on the old golf course. These statements appear to be made without supporting facts and an attempt to induce residents to voting for a land swap. Here are some of the statements made by the board. Quote, question, what if there are environmental issues with the ponds? Answer, the City of Apopka and the current owner have agreed to rectify the pond issues. End quote. Quote, the ponds will be handled by the city and the golf group, end quote. Quote, the pond agreement already exists and is recorded in the public record February 2001. Our land survey will create a legal binding document if needed to protect, our land attorney, will create a legal binding document if needed to protect the interests. He has provided the document to the city and to the golf owners as agreed legal document between both parties of a 50-50 split of the pond repairs and if and when needed. RSR residents have not received timely and accurate information from the board. The information
Rod, if you want us to answer those, are you asking for answers to those?
I'm going to have three questions at the end.
Okay, I was going to say you were rattling them off.
This is their, I'm quoting them directly.
Okay, all right.
And at any rate, but at any rate, information over the specific issue related to the ponds or possible pollution, which can cost millions of dollars to remediate, and who's going to repair the ponds. The HOA board is refusing to pay for environmental assessment of the old Gulf Coast land until the property changes hands, largely because of the understanding that the city and the golf group will remediate the issues on the ponds. The HOA board has also not given residents a detailed pro forma of all costs, as promised to you guys on the 21st of July. Cost information is given to residents in bits and pieces, and in order to keep residents in the dark and hide the true, whatever the agenda might be. Again, we had asked for, they are asking for a vote now without the facts. The residents strongly feel that the Harmon Road property should be sold at fair market value and be sent out for bid. Awarding the sale to the highest bidder would earn enough funds to pay for the relocation of the tower and other city infrastructure needs that you just were discussing. The land swap should not be delayed in order to financially compensate the golf group for their poor management of the old golf course, allow the golf group to profit from the land exchange, and provide the golf group with a safe haven for taxes and place unwanted costs onto the residents of the entire city. Questions are, one, what is the agreement dated February 2001, and can we get a copy of it?
Michael?
Sir,
I don't,
I do not know what this 2001 agreement, if it's part of what is within the Rock Springs Ridge file, simple public records request for such an agreement, if it could be located, would be provided.
could that be the St. John's Water
Is that the
Management?
storage agreement for the reclaimed water?
Yeah. I think that's,
I believe
I have a
that
copy
might
of
be it.
okay.
Yeah, I have a copy
Okay,
of
so
it.
that's it. I mean, if
What?
the document exists, it can be provided. There's nothing to stop them from
Yeah.
receiving it.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a
Is-
copy of it.
I just want to make sure we have the correct document that's provided.
And
Yeah.
the impression we get is that there's a legal document between the city, the golf group, and the HOA. Does that exist?
Well, it couldn't
document
if it was a
exist?
2001, because they weren't even in existence in 2001. So we can't very well have an agreement in 2001 if the golf group didn't even exist until 2005 or 6, yeah.
No,
So,
2005 is when the golf group
Right.
purchased.
yeah, so that
Rock-
can't happen.
Yeah, and I've been visiting since 2006 and moved in 2014. At one point, you could eat off almost any surface of the fairways, neither here nor there. And finally, will the city either abide by the 2001 agreement, which I guess you need to see first, and/or to a separate agreement to fix the ponds for this deal to go through?
Well, I mean, we'd have to come back on that one. I know that, I think two of the ponds are Rock Springs Ridge, the golf group, whoever owns those, and I think we own one pond. And my recollection is that Rock Springs Ridge, their stormwater goes into your two ponds, which it's kind of an interesting way DEP works, is that if you have your own stormwater, you can use that for your own purposes, your own property to irrigate. And so at the time, Rock Springs Ridge was using that stormwater in those ponds to irrigate the golf course. I don't think they ever got to irrigate the main thoroughfare, but that was a way to save money, because if you use all your stormwater for irrigation, because I think at some point it was, the irrigation cost just to the city of Apopka was over $300,000 a year to maintain the golf course. But the ponds that I assume that Rock Springs Ridge owns could be used for irrigating any of the common areas, but you can't do anything with it outside that. Conversely, our ponds we have at Northwest, we can use to irrigate our athletic fields, but we can't sell it as reclaimed water to Rock Springs Ridge. So it's whatever stormwater that you collect on your property, you can use on your property without any additional treatments to make it reclaimed water standards.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners.
If you want, I can get you a copy of this. I mean, a better copy. I've written all kinds of stuff on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got other concerns, but I guess this isn't the time for that one, so.
No.
I'm just, the more I'm hearing, the more concerns that I have. My big issue is the tower and the cost, and are we ended up taking the very profits we would make from the sale, which again time keeps going on, and now the value then is probably not the value now, so I'm a steward of that on behalf of the people, so, but I really have an issue if the money that's made, we end up having to spend to move a tower that really doesn't have to be moved, except that we're doing this deal. So
Well-
that I want to know, and I've asked a little bit on that, but my head is not wrapped away all the way around that. So-
Well, Rob, come down and talk about the life expectancy. And I'm not saying we need to sell the land. I'm
Yeah.
not saying we don't need to sell the land, but there is a life expectancy on the tower we got. It's not unlimited.
Okay, because that was my question.
Yes.
If we weren't doing this, would we be needing to move the tower at 2 point whatever million?
So the initial plan that I was pushing for was to get the tower rebuilt out in that location. And when I mean rebuilt, currently it's a 400-foot guide tower. The guy wires come out 320 feet from the base of the tower in all different directions, so that takes up a lot of area. So the idea was to put a self-support tower right next to it, utilize the existing building we have to keep the cost down. We already have the radios and everything at the location, so we would just need to run new waveguide tubing up the tower. We would use our existing antennas, and that would have been the, of course, the cheap route to do it at the time. So
But
that
where
was the
it's
initial
at
plan.
presently.
Where it's located currently, and that was before any of the current talk that's happening now. So that was initially where I was heading, and then there
And
was
what
the
would
thought-
that cost have been?
Well, at the time we were quoted, and this is before COVID, it was right at the beginning of it, it was about $1 million to do it, about $1 million, $1.2 million.
And that's something we would have to do at some point.
We're about 31 or 32 years into the tower, and it's definitely met its life expectancy. It's been reinforced many times, and as I've said at previous meetings, with our current 2 cell carriers sitting on it with us, we're at 190% overload as far as wind load for today's standards.
Okay, so that is something that we do need to do. But
It
then
does
the
need to
difference
happen.
is $1 million to support it and strengthen it, 2 point whatever million to actually move and relocate it, rebuild it.
Because of the cost and everything going up now, that cost has gone up to about 2.7 to reconstruct at the other location.
Okay.
The tower sits on which property? Because it's 2 properties on Harmon.
On the
north.
current location,
The north?
North side of,
it's actually on, it's on the south side of
I
Harmon.
mean, south side, yeah.
Okay.
And, and if you go back, the property, it was meant to be athletic fields. I mean, the tower, we would have left the tower there, and we can still leave the tower there, and we could, that's to be determined by the council, but
Right.
that's 23 acres, I think, and, so we need a tower somewhere in the next 2 or 3 years, and
So
Well-
we shouldn't sell then, because if we need it in 2 or 3 years, why would we sell Harmon? Then what would happen to our tower? And I do remember saying that when Harmon was first proposed for the swap, that what were we going to do with the property that was housing the tower? I had concerns with that because we should be owning the property and we should not be selling that part of the property or putting it out for bid or swapping it because of the tower. And I know that Rod read some things that were going on Next Door Neighbor, and there's so many threads. But much of the thread says that the mayor is anxious to sell the property, the Harmon property, to Rock Springs Ridge. So,
Well, I love the idea of self-determination for the people there, and we know how long they've been dealing with this back and forth feeling.
there's a lot
But we
piece and,
can't do something that is just absolutely a bad business decision, so that's my concern.
Well, the phone calls, the threads that are going on at Next Door Neighbor, there's so much different information being disseminated. And I do have a concern. On July 21st, I remember I did ask Mr. McSweeney, who was here at the time, I asked to try and get a consensus of yes or no from the residents. And at the end of that council meeting, when I got home, I did get a text. And so I'd like to just read it because I think from that text, this whole Rock Springs Ridge and Harmon swap just kept growing and growing. And the text that I received was, "Oh my God, you can't send a letter without a price and cost A letter, do you want to buy without information is ridiculous. Do we spend $20K HOA dollars for a matter to say yes or no? Do you want to buy without any cost? Then have to send another with details to get the yes or no. So I responded back in a text, which I have the text. I recommend the HOA send out to the 1,320 households a mailer asking, are you interested in purchasing the defunct golf course? Yes or no? And include the cost per household with the buy-in and an estimate of yearly cost to maintain. Is it a bond? If you mentioned recreation district, the cost to have a recreation district. Gary mentioned a bond to the mayor. Gary mentioned the bond the mayor recommended, and I put question mark. That hasn't been asked. I am being asked those questions, followed by, we're not interested in this deal. What happens if we don't want it? Do we still have to pay? If it's voted in favor of purchasing, providing a number to support the purchase is important. And I continued, let's be transparent regarding this deal with the residents. I'm not in a rush. We have been in this funk doing it right by informing and providing every household is the right thing to do. I have residents approaching, calling me concerned about the cost and maintenance, and why are we purchasing it? What's the rush to push this deal through in the next 2 weeks? That was on July 21st. The HOA has spent an extensive amount, and I put all dollar signs, relying on Mr. Kirkman. The HOA fund belongs to all the residents. Spending on a mailer to get a consensus should be done. It gives each household the privacy and time to think and process this decision and or discuss this matter with their family. I can guarantee you that there are households here not paying attention. The person that wrote it to me continues to text me. We just agreed today. The residents are the third party to agree. Sending a letter to say yes or no, do you want to buy without numbers when everyone has been asking for costs? Listen to your questions tonight. The video you said you want a mailer saying just yes or no. Are you interested in purchasing? There is no recreation district anymore. The residents do not want the extra cost to pay for the land. It will be green space for the residents to use, not a defunct golf course. The cost to mow, cut trees, we have. The city has to provide the HOA with the annual cost of the bond. We should have that in the next few days. The city and golf group agree, should the resident petition be successful, to own the responsibility of the ponds as written in the pond agreement. The costs are anticipated to about $100 per home. The rent from the tavern pays for the mowing. When the information is out and the petition is done, we will know what the majority wants. The mayor and the golf group agree if we get majority, then this is our right. I know the negative ones call you, but I have hundreds of calls and texts, messages on Nextdoor with the ones who want it. The mayor said to me, you're not playing two roles. If the petition says we want it, then that's it. Simple and clean. And the city has the authority to assess us without any vote at all. The HOA is doing this to protect, and the commissioners vote for their election. After that last text, I did not engage any longer with the person. And was July 21st, and today is September 15th, 16th. And they still have not asked the residents if they want to buy into this purchase, and they still have not provided any numbers regarding the cost and the maintenance and what it will cost them and for how long. We have gotten, the last thing we've got is a proxy vote, and that's to give them the authority to do a business transaction regarding the 51 acres with the agreement that they will buy the Harmon property. And according to a lot of the comments and posts put by the HOA leadership, is that it almost sounds like, and I did share that with our attorney, that it's a done deal and that the mayor has kind of guaranteed that they would be the buyers of that property. And then they have said that our attorney has threatened them if they didn't agree.
Well, Michael, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, but I did share that with him.
Well, about it's a guaranteed deal.
There is no guaranteed deal. Any land swap has to be, first and foremost, any purchase or bid or offer on the property is still to be brought before this council for approval. Second, any attempted land swap still has to be brought before this council for approval. I can tell you that I have not been asked to draft a land swap document, nor is there any land swap between any party and the city that has been contemplated or prepared to be brought forth before this council.
By you or the mayor?
But
So-
definitely by me. I have not drafted or prepared
Okay.
any such document, as the legal department's been directed. No, we haven't been directed to do anything in regards to this, any transaction, because there hasn't been anything presented to this city in regards to any type of swap transaction, purchase. We are, I believe, back to the status quo we were at before anything was presented
So,
or even contemplated.
and I know that we have had the Rock Springs Ridge update continuously at the mayor's report. It has not been officially brought to us. It's always been kind of an update, a discussion. The only thing was that at the last meeting, August 18th, that was the one that I was not present in because I was sick at the time, and the mayor was on Zoom. And at his mayor's report, there was something that was kind of disturbing for me, and it was, he wrote, it looks like we have 3 no votes for selling the property to the HOA. And I think that our HOA leadership has interpreted that they have the support of the mayor and 1 other commissioner, and they have already assumed which 3 commissioners are the no votes. And I just believe that should be corrected, to really say that the discussions have been here at the mayor's report. There has been no official vote. And not any one of us has publicly or even voted to say no. And I think that's the only thing I think should be corrected, because the HOA is interpreting that it can be a done deal if 3 of us somewhere, 3 of us would vote for it. And basically, I know in the thread, they have told the residents, this is a lot of different information going out, but I pay attention to whatever the HOA leadership is presenting to the residents. And I think it's incorrect, and I don't feel that they should be telling the residents, listen, they're all up for reelection, and think about what their votes are or not their votes if we don't get the Harmon property. Everything is based on the Harmon property. So that's something that should concern all of us up here because we have not had this on the agenda for an official vote at all. This has only been a discussion, and it's been brought up in the mayor's report.
Right, well, I can confirm, there's no official action, there's been no official presentation, or there's no official offer on the part of anybody for the purchase of the Harmon Road property that can even be brought to this council's attention for acceptance. Similar to when the Sandpiper property was sold or the airport property was sold, we had a bid, the bid was presented to the council then voted upon accepting that bid. To my knowledge, there has not been an official bid presented to the city for the purchase of the Harmon property, so therefore at this point, without an official bid, the issue's moot. There's nothing official for you to consider.
Commissioner Velasquez, the only reason I put it under the mayor's report, I've had meetings with Gary McSweeney and the attorneys and Michelle Chase, and I just, because we're under sunshine laws, I can't, I've got to do it in a public forum, so I'm just presenting what they're presenting to me. I'm not putting I'm for them, against it. I'm just saying, here's what they're offering, here's what they want to try to do. But at the end of the day, it will always come back to the council to approve or not approve anything that they have presented us. We have got nothing in front of us to say, this is the deal we want to do. Here's a contract, we would like a swap, a sale, a whatever. We have not gotten anything from anybody that would give us reason to bring it to the city council for a vote. So my only point to bring it up, and I haven't had a meeting since the last commission meeting, so I didn't even have it under my report. So the only reason I'm bringing it in my report is I've had meetings, and I think you would like to know what the group is.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying anything other than the only time we've ever had a discussion about Rock Springs Ridge has been on the mayor's report. But how, perception is reality. The thread that has been going on at the next door neighbor, which is a way of them disseminating information to our residents, is it almost sounds like that this has been a deal going on, and what's holding it back has been, commissioners not on board with them. And actually, I believe that July 21st, when the president, Gary McSweeney, stood here, and he had, a whole speech thanking each of us for, being part of the proposal and agreeing with it. I asked him, look, have you gotten a general consensus? And then I said to him, I do wear two hats. Contrary to what people think, I do wear two hats. I am a resident of Rock Springs Ridge. Not only am I a resident, I own property that's on the golf course. And I said, I need a general consensus. On April 27th, I said to them, I will support what our community wants. And whether, I'm not benefiting from it. So when I sit up here, I'm not representing just Rock Springs Ridge. I'm representing the entire city, every taxpayer. Harmon property is owned. It's a city asset owned by every taxpayer. So I had some reservations about using Harmon property in a swap. It should not have been used or offered, especially when we have a tower that we haven't even decided if we're gonna rebuild or move it. I keep hearing it's on its last leg, but it is a tower that's in use. It's in use by our public safety, and we should own the piece of property and not dispose of it until we can get that tower either rebuilt or moved.
Well, Commissioner,
And,
but I've never not brought anything to the golf group. So you keep saying I'm the one, I haven't brought the swap. The last thing, and I've said it numerous times, that was never my intention to be in a three-way swap. So I've been clear
Okay.
from day one that I'm not for a three-way swap, never have been. They brought the proposal in some form, not in a written form, but a proposal that, you know, in private meetings with the golf group. So I've told you from day one, I'm not, you know,
Okay, but on August 18th, when you made that remark in your mayor's report, that you know that you have 3 no votes, they
No, I
interpreted
didn't-
that as that 2 of us up here are for it and 3 of us are not.
I said I can read the tea leaves. I think it's, we can go back and get the
I do have the
transcripts.
minutes. I did ask for the minutes because when I was made aware of it, I did ask for the minutes, and then I said, well, that in itself fed the HOA leadership that there were 3 votes here. No, it said, it looks like we have no 3 votes for selling the property to the HOA. They
yes.
interpreted that 2 of us are for it and 3 of us are not. And so that started another whole thread of, you know, oh, don't forget, they're running for election and, you know, pay attention. And that should not be, because at the end of the day, each of us up here represents every taxpayer in the city of Apopka. We want to help Rock Springs Ridge to get somewhere, but it should not be done off the backs of of all the taxpayers. That's all I'm saying. But obviously, the HOA leadership is feeling, they want to they want to single out one of us, they want to single out commissioners who are not for it, and they don't understand that the Harmon property is not our individual property. This belongs to the taxpayers, and I have to answer to the people who call me and say, why are you doing this swap with Rock Springs Ridge, a private group? And I'm not doing the swap. And so that is of concern. And I know that who has called me has called every commissioner here, because that person told me, he understands sunshine. He says, I can't discuss what they said to me, but what I'm telling you, I told every commissioner. And I said, thank you for letting me know. So we have to deal.
My only comments on this one is, again, I think Commissioner Velasquez, you were trying to make this point, but at the end of the day, we need to have a public hearing. There's too much game of telephone going on. I mean, it's got to be part of a noticed public forum that people from Rock Springs Ridge can come to this meeting, weigh their opinions, know that we're going to be talking on this matter, because either through public comment or the mayor's report, it really doesn't afford that opportunity. I don't really want to talk publicly on it from a Rock Springs Ridge perspective. I think from a decision tree, we've got a couple of things as a council to consider. What do we want to do? How do we want to dispose of the property if that's what we want to do? Because it seems like there's been discussed multiple intents of that property. One was, potential funding for Camp Weewa. One was potential this swap with Rock Springs Ridge. One was a post-secondary educational opportunity. And then to your point, park space, if that's what it is. But ultimately, we've got a decision what we want to do with the land. If the decision is to dispose of it, sell it, whatever you want to call it, we have to know the nature and the cost behind the tower itself. So we've talked about it, again, anecdotally, but I would want to have a formal report that says what's useful life, what is the cost, and what do those cost options look like? What does that get us? But I will, and this is my own confusion, but I thought when that material was passed out at the initial amphitheater meeting, and maybe I'm just confused in terms of the tri-party agreement particulars, but the golf group was to receive Harmon Road property. We would acquire the golf course for a period of time at which the HOA would lease it from us. We would make the appropriate PUD adjustments, and then the Rock Springs Ridge HOA would purchase that from us once they got their financing in order. To me, that screams tri-party agreement, because you have 3 parties that are at the table for that one. So maybe that's my own confusion.
Mr. Smith?
The attorney said there was not a proposal, so I don't have anything to discuss.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear him.
He said, since we don't have an agreement in front of us from our attorney, then there's no reason to discuss it, so. okay.
Well, there is a reason to discuss it, only because I mean, I'm getting calls, I'm getting emails, and the residents in Rock Springs Ridge feel that we're holding back, that we are the obstacle in them purchasing the property.
We can't do anything, Diane or Commissioner Velasquez, until we have something to show you. We don't have anything from the HOA that they want to do anything. We have all these discussions, but nothing to offer.
Okay.
Not a written agreement, not, nothing. So until we've got something in writing, and then obviously one of the things that you asked for, which I think is appropriate, is a vote from the membership, which you haven't gotten.
No.
Then it's a moot point.
Okay.
So
Well, I'm glad that you're saying that publicly, because I'm sure that the HOA leadership is tuning in, and so are some of the residents.
Well, since I opened this can of worms, and I didn't know if this was the right time to do that, again, for me, I love the idea of finding a solution. I think that people were just open to that and just kind of been waiting. I am content to let the democratic process work out within the HOA and the residents there. But initially, it wasn't on the understanding about the whole tower thing. So, I mean, as Commissioner Becker said, I would like to know, okay, what are the logistics of that? Because that really, just within this last month, it's like, okay, wait a minute, we're selling a property at this value, but it's costing us this much more, and something that we wouldn't necessarily have to do. So again, that's where I want to get that to know, what is the right decision for us as stewards of the city's, of the people's property, and that will weigh greatly on the decision I make. We just can't make a decision that's not in the benefit to all, and I think everybody's in agreement with that. So
Yeah.
as, to bring it to a landing, thank you, Commissioner Smith, because there's nothing here to discuss yet. So,
there we go.
I just-
Thank you.
yeah.
All right. Moving on.
That's how I feel about it.
Oh, we do? Okay.
Is that Roger?
Rogers back at 7 West Main Street. Just kind of listen to y'all. I had 4 questions, but I think I'm even more confused now. Because basically, I do believe maybe a month ago, you guys said that you was going to take up the issue on whether you was going to sell Harmon Road or enter into agreement with Rock Springs Ridge. And that's what's leading to, nobody knows nothing. You get one thing, like she said on the threads, you get an HOA say something, we come here, we hear something different. So the point is, like, what exactly is the city planning to do with Harmon Road? Now we're talking about the tower, but what exactly is your plan? Everybody talking about waiting for Rock Springs Ridge, well, what's your plan? It's your land. So make the decision here in this room. So it shouldn't have to wait for us. Because waiting for you guys, it's almost like a chicken head. So you got HOA saying one thing, we got a PR, they've hired a PR firm to send information out to the residents. $25,000 for that? Come on now. Somebody's spending something. Right. So just looking at being caught in the middle of it, it's frustrating. So the land swap just didn't fall out of the air. I do believe at the first meeting that came up. It's been discussed numerous times. So that's why I circulated. And people really just don't know, because we say land swap, what it feels like is the developer or the group, Darth group, gets a dump, their crap on us. The city doesn't have to worry because y'all already said y'all don't want to deal with it. And we stuck with whatever bills come along with it, maintaining it, the retention ponds, all this crazy stuff. Nobody knows what the cost is, but everybody keep kicking the can. But somebody need to make a decision on how the city of Apopka is going to handle the land that they own. That's just my opinion on that. So if there's no three-way swap, I don't know, it's frustrating. Now we got a whole situation with the HOA wants to sell 51 acres that was apparently a gopher tortoise mitigation site, right? Hear this wonderful idea. Now everybody's up in arms behind people's yards. It's crazy. So my question is, was the gopher tortoise site calculated in the original PUD as far as identity? Because I haven't heard that answer from anyone. Maybe you guys have not discussed it, but I just heard a yes?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess, well, I guess leads to this question. Let's say Rock Springs Ridge sells at 51 acres. Can that buyer come in and request to have a land use or PUD amendment for that particular area? Is that a yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
If it is sold, hypothetically, as a property owner, they have the right to come in and request an amendment to the PD in order to change the amount of approved lots, as long as such an approval meets the approved density as is currently calculated, as has always been. And I think this is, try to attempt to clarify a lot of the misinformation that is out there. The first bit of misinformation is that Rock Springs Ridge is overbuilt. That is not true. Rock Springs Ridge is not overbuilt. The density, there are two different, as I've reiterated before to this council, there are two different land use designations within the boundaries of Rock Springs Ridge. There is a density of 2 units per acre and a density of 1 unit per acre. The density is not consistent throughout the entire boundaries of the PD. There is X amount of acreage that's 2 to 1 and Y amount of acreage that is 1 to 1. Can't get the number right now off the top of my head.
197, I think, or
It's
just shy of
somewhere
200,
along those lines. An applicant can come in and request of this city council and make a request to amend the land use designation to either increase the amount of acreage within the PD boundaries of 2 to 1 or increase to 1 to 1. That type of an amendment to the land use designation and changing the acreage can then affect the number of units upon which can be built within the boundaries of the PD. It's a two-part process. An applicant, and this could be the purchaser of the 51 acres, this could be the golf group. They can come in and apply for an amendment to the land use, to the amendment to the future land use map designations of the property to increase the acreage in order to increase the densities. That is a matter that comes before this board for a vote, for this council for a vote. Then, if a land use amendment is approved, and that's a big if a land use amendment is approved, the applicant then must come back before this board to amend the planned development, which sets out the number of units within the development contingent upon what the acreage, the density available. So they can ask for an increase in the number of units, but only if the land use supports the number of units, and that would be contingent on an approval of a future land use map amendment. So that's what the overall process would be for any applicant within that's going to attempt to try to develop or add development within the boundaries of the PD. Hopefully that can clarify some of the issues, and that's kind of the overbroad 10,000 feet looking down legal ramifications of what is going to be entailed to attempt to try to add units within the PD.
Right. So, but in your legal opinion, the PD is the prevailing document. So what's in that PD or master plan currently published, documented, filed with the county is the prevailing document right now, currently.
The PD currently, right now, governs the amount of units that are permitted within its boundaries.
Right.
As well as, well, the PD governs the units. That PD is dependent upon the future land use designations within its boundaries. So the number of units depends on what the land use designation is, and they can't go above that.
Right. So the currently published PD, and this is, and I get it, from a legal perspective, you're weighing your opinion about what could happen. I think what happens is that some of these residents in Rock Springs Ridge takes what could potentially happen as what will happen. And so the PD agreement, in the PD, current PD, I just reviewed it the other day again, the 51 acres in question is designated as gopher tortoise mitigation area, like to the point that you just made. So that being the prevailing document, that PUD or that designation would have to go away in order for, it would be a consideration to be made when we contemplate a land use change.
If I can clarify, though, I want to clarify, the entire 51 acres is not necessarily fully designated as a mitigation or gopher tortoise mitigation. The initial approvals, the initial plat for Rock Springs Ridge had the designation, there is a conservation easement. Now, the conservation easement is definitively defined. So it's not a blanket over everything in that area. There are definitive boundaries of what constitutes a conservation easement. Now, with anything, an applicant or a property owner can go back to, the easement is to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission. I always get them mixed up with the Federal Fish and Wildlife Commission, who is where I used to deal with a lot. An applicant can go back to the Fish and Wildlife Commission and request an amendment to the conservation, to the conservation easement, and a new one can be drawn. Any property owner has the right to go back to petition.
But at the end of the day,
such
it's a
changes,
decision
but it's all
point.
theoretical.
Right. It's a decision point that has to be made. It has to be purposely decided to do that.
Yes.
Just because an ownership change doesn't automatically relieve the idea or the requirement that portions of it be a gopher tortoise mitigation area.
Correct.
And so, and then I'll take the golf course, for example. If, let's say hypothetically, it doesn't change hands and they were to come and try and develop on that property. Currently, our PUD, the third flavor of it, the current most prevailing, it's how you get to the 17 number is in that the proposed number of dwelling units based off of the combination of 1 dwelling unit per acre and the areas that's 2 dwelling units per acre is 1,337 dwelling units. Currently, if you agree with 1,320, simple math, that's how we arrive at the 17, or the 17 that's been discussed in this chamber. However, if that applicant did come to us for a land use change, because that would have to happen because currently it's parks and rec space, not necessarily residential allowance.
No, that isn't correct. The golf course itself is a residential land use. That's one of the rubs with the way that it's drawn out. The actual golf course land, a portion of the golf course is currently under the 2-to-1 density, and the rest of the golf course is 1-to-1. So if they want to, again, speaking hypothetically, any owner, I'm not going to pin it down to one, any owner of the golf course land can look at it and state, okay, I want to change the future land use map designation here in order to increase the density so that I can use this acreage now in order to come up with more units. And now when you take the full calculation of now I have increased the acreage within the PD that has a 2-to-1 density. Therefore, now I am creating this added density that I can then go to and ask for an amendment to the PD to accommodate this added density that I have requested. But that you only get there if this council approves the amendment to the map to grant the higher density in order to get there.
Right. And then the last point there, again, the 2 dwelling unit per acre designation or density is not a guarantee. That comes before this council for a vote. And then 2, if you have development on either one of those properties, yeah, you say that we're not in an overdeveloped state today, but the golf course as well as some of that mitigation area was the offset or open space percentage that did go into the density allowance for that PUD. Is that correct?
Well, when it comes to what the density is, you've calculated the entire acreage of the boundaries of the PD. So from that total acreage, in theory, the easiest way to do the math, if we've got, I can't remember, 1,100 and some odd acres is the overall gross area of the PD. If the entire PD, which it is not, but hypothetically, if the entire PD is at 1-to-1, that means you are going to get 1,100 and some odd units. That also doesn't mean you get 1,100 1-acre units. You can cluster your development. You can fit them in as long as that's the number you have.
But the point being is that the golf course land as well as the conservation or mitigation areas that's currently not with home or not with development are used as an offset for that open space requirement.
Not necessarily as an offset, but they're included in the calculation for the overall acreage of the PD in order to come up with what is the amount of allocated units within the PD.
Said differently, it's part of the open space.
It's open space, but it's way over what would be required for that subdivision. It is a conservation district, conservation area, and it's part of the density. I would not count it as requirement for open space.
Yeah. So the last point, Ms. Rebecca, from my point of view, like I said in the decision tree, I mean, we've got to know for Harmon, I have to know how much it's going to cost with the communication stuff. I need to see that data before I render any decision on my opinion on Harmon Road. And I thought we were going to have that the last meeting, but it got postponed. But that would be what I have to have in order to make that decision.
Okay, my last question is really, has there ever been any concept plan or any plan submitted for development at Rock Springs? Because it's been circulated for some time, said that they submitted some for you guys to look at. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Let's move on to consent agenda. Anybody need to pull any of the 4 items we have? If not, I'll look for motion to approve the 4 items on consent.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Velasquez,
Second.
second by Commissioner Smith. All those in
Becker.
favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, Becker, okay. Becker. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, this is the St. John's. We're looking to, since kind of been working on this one. This is the St. John's, just a business item. We have to approve the amendment number 3 of the agreement between St. John's Water Management District and the City of Apopka for the Apopka. This is the individual wastewater treatment facilities that we have. So I'm just, want to make sure everybody understands, this is just to move this on from 2021 up through next year. Then the next item will be, we talk about whether we want to add additional dollars to it. But the first one is just to approve the amendment to the cost share agreement. Anybody have any questions on this agreement?
You said till next year, but it says 2023.
2023
Okay.
is when they have to be completed, yes. Any questions on that agreement? Okay. All right, if not, look for a motion to approve amendment number, well, anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? If not, close the public hearing, look for a motion to approve amendment number 3 to the agreement between St. John's Water Management District and the City of Apopka for the Apopka IDWTS conversion project.
So moved.
So,
Got a
second.
motion by Commissioner Banks, second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The next one is the additional funding. St. John's Water Management has additional funding. Obviously, you know that the funding up to this point has been 50% comes from DEP, 25% comes from St. John's Water Management, 25% comes from the City of Apopka. We have put in 13 of the units out at Wekiva Glen, and which ran us up to about $58,000 or $48,000, so just under the 50 that we had contracted for. So what this agreement does is just give us the ability to if we want to add additional dollars toward additional units out in Wekiva Glen, this is what this agreement will do. Any questions on what I've got? Just to give you an idea, the current agreement is we can go up to 17 units, which will get us up to, it'll be out of the city coffers, $60,000, $753. The maximum number of units that the city can install under the additional funding with DEP and St. John's Water Management is $453,000 or 127 units. So that's the maximum if we wanted to do that. But obviously, we'd have to come back for additional funding for that. So any questions on?
The only thing, just to clarify, because I
Sure.
did ask.
Yeah.
And that's coming out of the utility fund, and we are healthy in the
Correct.
utility fund.
Yes.
It doesn't come out of the general, so
Correct.
I support this,
Okay.
yeah.
And when you say we've already installed 13,
Yes.
and now is this, we're adding 4 more, or is it 17 additional ones
We can
plus the
do,
13?
we've got the funding right now for the $50,000, which we've just about spent. So the question is, do we want to go up for another $60,000? Right now, we can just kind of agree to the $60,000, and if we wanted to go higher, we could. We've got time to do that if for some reason, we really like what we see, the results, the performance of those systems. We wanted to go higher, there's money available. So if that's, that make,
Well, we can just go to the 60 now, and the
Yes, sir.
balance is still available for us later?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, to 60.
Okay.
So
Any other
far,
questions?
how are the units working?
They're doing fabulously. I've got to get the latest results, because it takes a couple of months for the bugs in the system to start chewing on the nitrogen and phosphorus, but we're almost as effective, if you look at the water after it goes through the drain field, almost as effective as our wastewater treatment plant.
That's good.
We've got a group coming out next week from DEP to take a look at it, and Orange County's sent another group out. So there are a lot of opportunities in the more rural areas where this kind of a system will really make a lot of sense. And so we're kind of the guinea pig for,
And I know that this community is the closest
Correct.
to our Wekiva Springs, so it is something that I definitely support, because we need to save the Wekiva Springs.
and what I'd love to do is at some point, in the future, when we get Wekiva Glen finished, is then go, the next one would be to Rock Springs Ridge, the front,
Yeah,
the
the
front
phase one.
Phase one is all on septic tanks, so it'd be great to be able to move them over to this system. And so,
And again, it's just, I just wanted the public to know that it's out of a utility fund and not the general fund, so.
Yes.
And we are very healthy in our utility fund, so.
Yes. Okay. All right. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to approve the allocation of additional funding for the Apopka IDWTS conversion project.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Velasquez.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, resolution number 2021-44.
Resolution 2021-44, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Apopka, Florida, authorizing the City of Apopka to make, execute, and deliver to the State of Florida Department of Transportation a locally funded agreement for project FPN 442905-1, providing for an effective date.
Good evening. This is related to the resurfacing, restoration, and rehabilitation project on US 441 from west of Bradshaw Road to Central Avenue. And I just wanted to refresh y'all's memory as to what we're getting out of this before I ask you to give money. The DOT is coming in when they looked at the corridor, and we all know that it could use some improvements. This is the first segment of the corridor at Central. They're going to kind of narrow the median so they can, I don't want to say straighten out the curve, but fix the curve. So if you're in the left lane, when you come through, you're still in the left lane, not in the right lane. So that's the first piece. And it's at this intersection where we're going to get the stamped paver crosswalks, like the ones up at McGee Avenue. This is the first area where we're getting a raised grass median. This is in front of AOK Tire. We managed, DOT was going to block AOK Tire off totally on the west side. On the east side, but we talked them into letting them still have that as a full access. We're going to, if it doesn't work, they'll just come out and close it off. But I think anything's better than what we've got right now. Another, this is at AOK Tire, I'm sorry. This one's at, this is the AOK Tire after they've changed the location of the meeting. You see they cut it out a little bit. And then this is further down the road where another big X across 441 is, where they're going to put in a median. And there was another one, but I didn't get that slide in. So anyway, we're getting all of that. We're also getting conduit under the road so that we can run electric and power out to the 3 new medians and the existing median right there at Central, because we want to do some lighting when we do the landscaping and watering. And so we have to have a local funding agreement with them because they won't pay for everything, where they have to redo some areas of where the sidewalk where we have the stamped pavement on, they won't pay to replace that, and that's going to cost us $3,000. And the remaining $27,000 that's included in this is to do the crosswalks at Central. So for $30,000, we're getting the medians, the conduit, the crosswalks, and the sidewalks.
It's gonna make it easier and safer, which is anything for safety, because is that the intersection where people just like run for their lives?
It's,
Because
there
there's
are three
nothing
of
there
them
that
there.
allows them to cross, no pedestrian.
They're doing the three intersections where the side streets form like a big X across 441.
Okay,
And that's how DOT designed it whenever they designed it. I mean, that's Second Street
right, Second Street.
And then this is the same one. And then there's one further up by the auto parts store where
Yeah.
there's also an X there. It's just, it's a real safety issue. They weren't going to do it till we asked them. And once they went out there and drove it, they said, oh yeah, I think we need to do that. So,
And that's a big project, and our cost is only gonna be 30,000.
right. I mean, for some extra things that we asked for, they're giving some of the ones that we asked for, which is the conduit and so forth, but they can't pay for the decorative sidewalks and the crosswalks.
Okay.
So, the ask is to adopt this resolution and authorize the mayor to execute the three-party escrow agreement, which was included in your packet.
Any questions for Pam?
No?
Okay, anybody
How
from
soon
pub-
will that get done, anyway?
I think they're going to let the project in January, so you should start seeing construction at the end of the first quarter of next year.
Okay,
There's
good.
another project on 441 too further up, but this one's ahead of it.
This one's ahead of it? That's a good one. For me, anything with safety and especially even for the traffic. I think it will slow down traffic in that area.
Then the lanes are going to narrow to 11-foot lanes.
Yeah.
They're going to put bike lanes in too.
Yeah.
I don't know who would want to ride their bike there, but it will narrow the lanes and slow the traffic down a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, anybody from public wish to speak on this matter? Not, we'll close the public hearing, look for a motion to approve resolution number 2021-44.
See, those are the things I support. So move.
Motion by Commissioner Velasquez,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bankson. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. City council reports. Commissioner Velasquez.
Okay, we already discussed Rock Springs Ridge, and I appreciate all the discussion. I just want to kind of thank the city, the staff, and of course you, Mayor, and Jason Wiggins and Jerry Maynard. The 9/11 was absolutely beyond anything I had expected, and was very proud of how our city honored September 11th. That was very important to me, and so I want to thank everyone for actually just everything from 6 o'clock in the morning till, you know, the concert. It just was respectful, and it certainly honored the 20th anniversary of September 11th. So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, the bagpipes and drums when they came in,
Oh,
I
I
just
know.
put chills down.
It
It
gets
was
chills.
very impressive. I just want to bring something up, and there's a lady that I've run into several times, and of all the times, I keep forgetting to get her name, but we're neighbors walking the dogs in the area there, but she is constantly going and picking up garbage. And she's a saint, you know, but we just had a conversation about that, and this has been an issue in other places. That's just a particular pet peeve to me. Why throw something out your window? It does not magically disappear. And I really think it's, you know, it's a big issue right here, but I'd just really like to know, what is the structure of our ordinances concerning littering and thinking about the best way to move forward to stop that. It's a terrible eyesore. And again, we go to mow and you catch a can that somebody's thrown out and becomes a missile, and there's just all kinds of things. And I don't know what's the best way to approach that, you know.
Well, one of the things
more
we've done,
fines.
Nicole's working on, we got the $4,500 in the budget to look at what was the name of the program?
Keep America Beautiful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that will maybe give us
Maybe we can
some
start with
ideas on how to change habits.
Yeah, I know in Singapore, if you spit on the sidewalk, it's
Oh, forget it.
multi-$100
even-
fine, and
Yeah.
it's the cleanest place you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Not that we want to go there, but we just really want to, we do need to keep it beautiful. So maybe that's the best.
So we'll
We'll
see what
just wait
that
and see
looks
what
like.
that does and just use that as springboard. So, thanks.
Commissioner Smith?
I too want to commend the fire department and the police department for an excellent 9/11 event. I attended all 3, 4, whatever it was. Great concert that Saturday night, as well, some great artists, and so we want to commend them for an outstanding job that they did for 9/11 that we will never forget. Also want to commend, I guess it's Parks and Rec, for cleaning up the pond there at the old Little League field, just past Dream Lake. It looks excellent after they cleaned that out. And I'm hoping that once we get this tractor with the extended arm, that we'll be able to clean out some more of those. But that was a great project, great improvement. And I do want the council to have staff to take a look at housing is getting to the point that it's not affordable any longer for a lot of our residents. And so we need to look at something about workforce housing, affordable housing, whatever you want to call it, here in our city so that we're able to retain our residents that are growing up here in the city of Apopka, in Apopka, so they can afford to live here.
Michael, how many units have we got now where we've been able to take back foreclosed on? We got 3 or 4 lots now
From,
that had code enforcement violations that,
well, some of these, actually, I have begun to notify those property owners that the properties are subject to foreclosure. And actually, what has actually occurred is that they've gone out and cleaned up the properties and paid the fines and gotten them release.
oh, okay.
One of them was actually, I think it was at 1400 Piedmont, Wekiva, where there was a homeless camp there. Property owner eliminated the homeless camp. They're currently in the process of cleaning it up. It was so effective that Orange County actually contacted our code enforcement department and asked, what the heck did you guys do that got something done out there? We are currently on one property. We're just waiting for the clerk's office to get the summons back to us. We are beginning foreclosure proceedings on one of the properties that's located within Rock Springs Ridge on Greenock. I think is the name of it. Right. That we have filed the foreclosure action with the court, and at this point, we're waiting to get the summonses back to serve the property owner and begin an expedited foreclosure proceeding on those. The rest of them will continue we always have to run title work to make sure the issue, usually the issue that really stops us from moving forward is if some of these properties have mortgages, our lien falls behind in priority to a purchase money mortgage, so therefore there is no economic benefit for us to foreclose on a property and then take title to the property subject to a mortgage that's ahead of us.
Okay, Commissioner Becker?
I'll echo the sentiments of some of the other members. 9/11 is a memorable day for a lot of people, and I thought Apopka celebrated it and honored it in a memorable way. So kudos to all that were involved in that. And it was a pretty special day for everybody.
All right. Edward?
I don't have anything to report, but I do want to add, you're right, 9/11 was a great event, and I don't know if you saw it or not, but we were actually highlighted in the Orlando Sentinel on the 9/11 ads, on the 9/11 event. They chose our day and our facility to promote that, so I thought that was interesting if you haven't seen that article. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Michael?
Don't have anything additional to report.
All right. Okay, next up. Rob, we got a little video for you on Camp Weewa, our Lowe's days. As you know, we had 3 days last week where we had about 80 people each day come out from Lowe's, and I can tell you, I cooked burgers and I had a staff helping me. On Wednesday, we cooked 120 burgers and 60 dogs, so we had a hungry bunch that really got out there and hustled. On Thursday, we bought 40 pizzas, and on Friday, a fewer, smaller crowd, but anyway, still over 100 burgers and 40 dogs. So a great effort by Lowe's and their team, and so got a great video that I think you'll enjoy here.
Oh, good.
That's some of the equipment they were bringing, and I mean, all the supplies that they brought out there. That's Rudy in the back and John Beecher, who are the two that kind of led the plan for Lowe's. But yeah, they had it divided into 5 different teams of 3 stores, each of them taking on a whole quad as they did all the improvements on fans and lights and decks and you name it. The Lowe's people came out, landscaped it, mulched it, fire pits, benches. I mean, just you name it. Those guys and ladies put a lot of effort into pressure washing the deck on the back of the dining hall and the fire pit, and they cleaned all of the mattresses in the bunk houses. There's the fire pit. Should have seen it before they got to that. And for my 2 pastors, one's coming up here in just a second, that was kind of near and dear to my heart. We have this is where the Parks and Rec folks were working and trying to get the vines off all these beautiful oak trees that we had. So putting the benches out in front of the pavilion there. Look at all been pressure washed, just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All new fans there. Our staff put in the dock, replaced all the wood on the dock. Beautiful brand new dock now we've got into Lake Shepherd. That's the deck that they got us all pressure washed, put in all new screens in the back. Yeah, look how much better that looks. Yeah, just amazing. So that's called Lowe's Heroes. So hands on, hearts on. And so some of the guys and gals that are eating lunch in our dining hall got it all cleaned up, looking great. And this guy is Elvis Alvarado. He was a former camper at Camp Weewa in 1996. So I thought that was kind of cool that he came up, he sought me out to try to talk about his Camp Weewa day. So we've got each of the different pods are a different color. So you know if you're in the green pod, you know where to go if you were out wandering around. And there it is, the cross. I got them to paint the cross at the chapel, so it's nice and fresh. Brand new flag, brand new pebbles in the bottom. So just an amazing day. Even painted with Rust-Oleum, the dinner bell there at Camp Weewa. So one of the volunteers helped me ring the bell for lunch. So anyway, amazing effort by Lowe's. Their team just came out there 8 o'clock on Wednesday morning, and then right up until 4 o'clock on Friday. Just really, really worked hard, and we're so blessed to be, a part of that. And I just got to tell you the quick backstory. So how this all came about is Greg Fox, who's a reporter here in the Orlando area, was calling me about an insurance issue that was being brought before the legislature in Tallahassee, and he said, so we're talking about that, and I told him, hey, we're trying to buy Camp Weewa. I says, well, you ought to call my buddy John Beecher over at Lowe's. He's the district manager. He might be able to help you. So he gives me his number. I called John Beecher, and he says, you know what? It's amazing you call. I said, last year because of COVID, we didn't do any projects either from a store perspective or a district perspective. He says, this will be a great project for our whole district. So we had like 3 or 4 pre-meetings to kind of get it all lined up, the paint colors, what needed to be done, what wood was rotted, what fans need to replace, air conditioners need to be replaced. And man, when they got out there, they were ready to go Wednesday morning and just did an amazing job. And so we really owe them a debt of gratitude, because they helped us get to a point where Brian's not behind the 8 ball. He might, he's even with the 8 ball, but he's not behind it anymore. So that was a great 3 days out there at Camp Weewa.
Well, when maybe one day, when we can have something where we can bring them back and celebrate them.
Yes,
with their work.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay, next up, we got the 9/11 events recap. And I know we brought up Officer Wiggins and Lieutenant Maynard, but I also want to tell you that Rob and Bob were out there at 7 a.m. setting up the stage, for our 8:30. Without them, the 8:30 celebration of life would not have happened. So thank you, Rob and Bob, for your attention to detail. Lieutenant Yost was our keynote, and then my good friend, the CFO, Jimmy Petronis, were there on the stage with us. This was our 12 o'clock service down from City Hall. Christian Ministerial Conference. Also need to give a shout out to Kelly, who helped put this together. So thank you, everybody who had a part with either one of these events. So thank you. Just quick couple things. COVID update, numbers are coming way down. We're at 20%. 2 weeks ago, we're down to 12.6% positivity rate. So that's looking much better. Just want to let you know that I know that Brian has reached out and had a meeting with Zoom Air to look at the Camp Weewa and maybe taking on the ropes course for us, the climbing wall, and maybe even the canoe rentals and whatnot. So got a good opportunity there. And also had a nice conversation with Steve Gunner, who owns partner in the Highland Manor, about maybe a partnership with them to do the catering and also help us with keeping the place full out there, the dining hall and the chapel and the gazebo. So we just need to kind of think about that. I'd like to bring it back the next commission meeting for a vote to look at, how do we want to proceed? Do we want to just us take it on completely? Do we want to, give them first right of refusal? Do we want to have like a preferred vendor list of people that could do the catering? So kind of think about what you think would be the best way forward on a way that we can utilize Weewa to its fullest and help not only our local businesses, but help, us bring notoriety to Camp Weewa. So would like to bring that back next commission meeting for some kind of a decision on how we want to move forward with the catering and the renting of the facility. So with that, we'll close the public.